All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Magic the Gathering Modern League with some of the new Modern Horizons 2 cards. Today, I'm going to run through a league with a deck that I'm dubbing Jeskai Monkeblade. Basically, we're just trying to leverage Ragavan's abilities backed by a bunch of countermagic. And then also just playing very powerful cards alongside him in Jace the Mind Sculptor, Stoneforge Mystic, and some of the new equipments in Cauldron Complete. Prismatic Ending obviously being a very impressive removal spell so far. So just kind of trying to play like a low to the ground style deck in terms of creatures, and then just backing that up with some expensive counter magic. Or pseudo expensive counter magic, cheap counter here magic here, and then a little bit of cryptic command, right? So pretty mid-rangey style deck. So we're gonna see how this runs. It should be interesting. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully we get some good games with it. It's not what I wanted to do. We're not trading. Modern League. Jeskai Monkeblade. So yeah, as far as the sideboard goes for this particular build, it's mostly just straightforward. We are playing 4 enchantments that are specifically built for different parts of the metagame right now. There's a lot of Asmora, Noma decks that Rest in Peace is quite good against, Hollow 1 variants, things like that. Rest in Peace is pretty good against those particular style decks. There's also a lot of artifact-based strategies, affinity, decks like that Stony Silence is going to be quite good against. So 4 enchantments in total that are built specifically for those somewhat linear strategies. And then a couple bullets here and there. Test of Talents is mostly there for the Crashing Footfalls deck. So Shardless Agent, Cascade. This being able to exile the Crashing Footfalls is pretty solid. They still have a little bit of game after that, but being able to make their Cascade spells basically do nothing is pretty solid. Usually they're playing the Teamer build where they're trying to go all in on 4 copies of Shardless Agent, 4 copies of Violent Outburst, and being able to make their Violent Outbursts effectively dead. It's pretty solid. If you take their Crashing Footfalls out of their deck, Shardless Agent obviously just still a 2/2, but that's mostly okay. Teferi Time Rattler also a pretty solid sideboard card against that, but I haven't seen a ton of it on Magic Online, so I'm not like trying to hedge a bunch of those matchups. Other than that, the only other card that I really want to mention is Subtlety. Subtlety is like my version of specifically Aether Gust for this deck. I think it's probably better than Aether Gust in a lot of matchups, just because it doubles up as other against other decks. So we'll go ahead and run this. I know it's a little bit awkward that we don't have white mana for the Stoneforge Mystic and red mana for the Ragavan. Definitely pulling our colors in 2 different directions here is a little bit awkward, but hopefully the Ragavan being able to make a treasure token is going to make that not matter too much. So this is one of the more powerful turn 1 plays that this deck has, obviously. Playing a Ragavan on turn 1 into a deck that is looks to be somewhat non-interactive because they're likely playing Oops All spells or some variant otherwise. So they are playing a Lotus Field deck. Force of Negation is a pretty solid draw. So I'll go ahead and smack them with Ragavan. Get my free card and my treasure. They gave us a Serum Visions, which I think I'm interested in casting that. I will go ahead and play out Stoneforge Mystic and go grab Cauldron Complete. Yeah, I'll grab Cauldron Complete. I just want to get my opponent dead. I think I'm gonna bottom snap and top the force, because I think forces are gonna be pretty good here. I'm likely, if I am put into a situation where I can force this turn, which I am, I'm going to go ahead and force pitching the Snapcaster Mage, I think. They are gonna go ahead and play Lotus Field. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a Hollowed Fountain. And I will... Maybe I'm supposed to hold up Archmage's Charm here and then just activate Stoneforge at end of turn. Would have to imagine most of what they're doing is non-creature spells, so I think I'm gonna put the threat into play here. We do get to make a treasure with the Ragavan. We did find another Serum Visions, which is pretty solid. Archmage's Charm, Cryptic on top. Five, six, seven, eight. So they're just dead next turn. I'll just go ahead and bottom both of these. I don't think it's going to matter a ton if we just force like their first thing. They're probably on some variant of Twiddlestorm. I think I'm okay with this Peer Through Depths. I had considered forcing it, but untap with Dream's Grip. I will force this one. Okay, and my opponent conceded. Obviously, if they have another Dream's Grip there, they get to go off, but I just want to constrain them on mana as much as possible there. Okay, my opponent has conceded the full match. They will not be going to a games 2 and 3. I guess they're on the presumption that that matchup's probably quite poor for them, which I would probably have to agree with my opponent's assessment on that. I feel like that's probably pretty well in our favor. We just have 3 copies of Force of Negation and a bunch of counter magic for that matchup, so yeah. Pretty easy game 1 there. Ragavan definitely showing off how powerful it is. Yeah, this hand's solid. We get to turn 1 Lightning Bolt, a threat, and then turn 2 Stoneforge. Then depending on what our opponent is on, if we need to go grab Cauldron or Batter Skull or something of that nature, we can definitely sort of pick. Okay, opponent's mulligan to 6. All right, we'll lead on Tarn, and say go. Just want to grab a Ralgren Triumph here, I think. Somewhat awkward that we drew our one steam vents. We do have lightning bolt here, so if they cast a threat that we want to bolt, we actually cannot cast lightning bolt here based on how we've played our lands. We're playing 2 hallowed fountains and only 1 steam vents. Ragavan. So I will bolt their Ragavan and then play one of our own. Okay, looks like they might be an Omnath deck, perhaps a Domain deck. It's a possibility as well. Probably going to point to Bolt at this if I had to guess. This is a Territorial Kavu. Territorial Kavu, okay. We can Prismatic Ending that and then get in for 2 with the Ragavan. Makes a treasure. If we draw a land, we can hold up Counterspell. Did not draw the land, but I still think that's our line. 2 colors. X is 1. In for 2. I do really wish that this card could play lands off the top. I think it's probably pushing too powerful if you could, but it's definitely a very powerful card as he is. Leo Monko. Okay. Looking for another Prismatic Ending here, or a Snapcaster Mage. Cauldron Complete is neither of those things. So I will... I'll go ahead and play out my Stoneforge Mystic. And just put my opponent in a position where they sort of have to... kill the Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, no bolt from them is pretty good. They did have red mana to pay for it, but they did not. So, I think my plan here is to hold up Stoneforge Mystic's ability on the defensive to make it look like I am going to put in the Batterskull at instant speed. And they're probably just fine attacking into that because Batterskull is obviously a 4/4, the Goyfs are 4/5s. But then if we get to put in a Cauldron instead, which is obviously an indestructible threat, they're going to definitely be in bad shape. So I'm going to go ahead and shock this Hallowed Fountain into play and just pass. And then obviously if they choose to not attack, we'll just put the Batterskull into play next turn, or on the instep, and just continue holding up Cauldron. Is this a... okay, Scion. I guess they only have 3 land types. Mountain, Forest, Plains, Island. Oh wait, right, because it costs 2 less for each basic land. Okay, so yeah, and it's 12 mana normally. So they don't have a swamp. Okay, did not put in Tarmogoyf. Interesting. put in the Batterskull. I suppose I could have counterspelled the Scion, but I just don't care a ton, right? I think I'm going to go ahead and cast second Stoneforge Mystic here and just go grab Sword of Feast and Famine. Obviously, if they play something that I would like to counter, we still have the option of doing so, or we can just put in the Cauldron. If I had to guess, I would probably say that my opponent has the read that we have the Cauldron in our hand already, since we did not go get it with the first Stoneforge. This is definitely one of the downsides of Ragavan, is, you know, once your opponent gums up the ground, he kind of doesn't do anything for the remainder of the game. When you're playing a control deck, you know, we ideally would like some way to continue to draw cards, and Ragavan is part of the plan that does that. He did draw, no, I'm sorry, he has not drawn any cards, but he did make one treasure, so he is pulling his weight in that sense. Also, just like, you know, dealing 2 to our opponent is not nothing. We are still a Lightning Bolt deck that has this Cauldron Complete aggro plan. So Vigilance if it's white, Hexproof if it's blue, Lifelink if it's black, First Strike if it's red, and Trample if it's green. So like, none of those keywords really mean anything aside from like, they have black creatures, they get Lifelink randomly. The rest of it's kind of whatever. Green creatures having like these Tarmogoyfs having Trample is neither here nor there. If I had to guess, they're probably just going to attack with the Scion. Okay. My opponent has conceded from the game. I suppose that's mostly because we block the Tarmogoyf, we take 8, we go to 3. But for clarity, I'm not taking 8. I'm not going to do that. They are going to lose a Tarmogoyf in this combat. But I think that concession was a little bit premature. I think I would have seen how my opponent was blocking and then decided afterwards, because I probably wasn't going to take 8. I was probably going to block Germ on Tarmogoyf, and I would have stayed at 11. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 on the swing back. So they're not just dead. But my opponent didn't want to stick around to figure that out. Okay, so they're playing a zoo deck. Subtlety probably has some amount of utility here in this kind of a matchup. Sword of Fire and Ice does not kill any of their creatures because, I mean, aside from exactly Ragavan, which is not nothing. Teferi's kind of interesting. Most of their creatures are just kind of big dumb things. So like taking a creature, like putting a creature back in their hand and you know, sort of taking that tempo away from them can definitely be useful. I bet Spell Pierce and Force of Negation have almost no targets in this matchup, with the barring exactly Tribal Flames. So it's probably not a huge deal. So I will bring in the Teferis. Like I said, I feel like this is probably a pretty solid tempo play in this matchup. Most of their guys are just big dumb things with summoning sickness. So just like put it back in their hand, draw a card is like pretty solid. And then like if they ever point an attack at it, I'm like 100% okay with that. I am bringing in the 4th Prismatic Ending. I think that card's pretty good here. And then, like I said, subtleties are pretty okay. I think Bolt is kind of mediocre, so we'll bring in 2 subtleties over 1 Bolt. I don't think 3 subtleties is like correct. You don't want to be like overloaded on subtleties. It's a good card, but it's kind of awkward if you draw it after they have creatures in play. It's not the greatest there. Also just not bigger than any of their things. Yeah, this hand seems great. It's got a turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 Stoneforge. Or a turn 1 Bolt for a Ragavan if they just have their own. We're both on 7. My opponent's taking their sweet time. Not sure, maybe they're double queuing right now. Grab a Steam Vents. And play our Monka. I have yet to play a game where Monka has picked up a sword, but I imagine it's pretty good when he does. Just like, you know, here you go, Monka. Have a sword. But yeah, giving Ragavan protection from any colors seems pretty solid. Just like, I will proc my sword ability and also my Ragavan's ability when he deals combat damage. Feels like a Scion of Draco play. They're grabbing the Triome, so they're this is the Sultai one, so they need Sacred Foundry, so they have all 5 colors. They have Domain for 5, and they may play a Scion of Draco, which is not good for us, to be clear. I would argue it's bad for us. Go ahead and play out our Stoneforge Mystic. And I think on this board, I think I do just want to grab Cauldra. Cauldra just gums up the ground really, really well. And makes it basically impossible for our opponent to attack on the ground. So if they have any number of Tarmogoyfs, Territorial Kabus, anything like that, where they're just trying to sort of flood the board with a bunch of big creatures, Cauldra is going to play really well on a board like that. However, if they just have a hand of non-stop Scion of Dracos, I probably should have grabbed the Batterskull. But yeah, I mean, it's like, they just have a bunch of these. Cauldra is going to look real good on a board of a bunch of these. Okay. They do have the Path, which is pretty good against our Cauldra. They are getting in for 4. This means that we get to go Bolt the Wild Nacatl, attack for 2, make a treasure, play Jace, bounce the Scion. We'll start there. Bolt the Nikotl. We'll go ahead and counterspell this. I would like to take care of this Nikotl. And I'd like to get in with my Ragavan. Okay, add an Arid Mesa on top. Okay, let's play out our Flooded Strand. And then again on this next turn, we're kind of trying to line up the same thing. If they play just a dumb ground creature, we can just play Jace, bounce the dumb ground creature, and get in with the Ragavan. And we're just trying to build up enough mana to cast Kaldra. Or just cast a combination of our spells. Our cards are going to be more powerful in the long game. You also just kind of want to be aggressive against your opponent when like their entire mana base is just fetch shocks. Like my opponent, I have dealt successfully 2 damage to my opponent, and they've dealt 7 to themselves. So okay, that's another 2. It's like an Omnath? Okay. Yeah. That card has a lot of keywords. Because of this Draco. Yeah, how do I want to play this turn? Subtlety is interesting. So they could go to combat. We go tap draw with Cryptic, which I don't mind. Obviously, we run into Stub by doing that, but I think that's the most correct line. And that lets us get in with Ragavan on the following turn. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah, you gain 4 life. And we'll go tap draw. Okay, so 4 mana for a Tarmogoyf. I think I will go ahead and subtlety this one. I'll make them put that one on top. And then I suppose their other card in hand is a Territorial Kavu. Or another Tarmogoyf. One of the two. Tribal Flames you. Okay. Okay, so we go attack with Ragavan. Get their top card. If it's a ground creature, great. If it's not, it's a little bit awkward. Could also just leave Ragavan back to block. Bounce the Scion with Jace, play out Stoneforge Mystic, go grab Batterskull, block with the Ragavan. Use Stoneforge, put in Batterskull. But then there's a Scion in play. We still have the Jace though, in that scenario. If they just draw a dead, if they just draw a blank. Yeah, I think that's the most correct line. Play Jace. Bounce the Scion. Now that I think about it, actually, I think we have to attack with the Ragavan because the Omnath is going to have First Strike and Trample. They're just going to get to replay the Scion. So fingers crossed we find a massive creature here, a massive ground creature. Nope, found a Savai Triome. I will cast the Stoneforge Mystic and go grab Batterskull. Interesting that they are choosing to fetch there, because technically, if they... Do I want to grab Batterskull or do I want to grab sort of Feast and Famine? Feast and Famine is like technically an answer to the... So if we grab Feast and Famine, we can play Feast and Famine, equip it to the Ragavan, attack through the Omnath, even if they leave it back to block, or basically any of their blockers, because most of their creatures are green. And then we obviously bounce the Scion before that, and then Sword takes their guy out of their hand. I think I like Sword here. I'm in for Sword. So we get to bounce the Scion, take it out of their hand with Feast and Famine. And then we get to untap with 7 lands, and then, 5 lands, 2 treasures, and then play Kaldra. Yep, Scion. And what was the other card we draw? And I'm gonna go to 1 here from this. Okay, put the Scion back in your hand, play out my Sword of Feast and Famine, equip it to the Ragavan. Okay. Yep, that is GG's. Okay, Probably want Wear Tear Prismari command over a couple bolts, because Wear destroys the Scion of Draco, and that's like kind of just the most annoying threat here. And then Do I want sort of Fire and Ice as well? I mean, most of their creatures are green and red. So like Fire and Ice is also going to give it protection from most of their creatures. Just bring in 1 bolt over 1 subtlety. Not so sure how I feel about this card just yet. Maybe the Jaces aren't that great, but like, again, as I mentioned before, like most of their deck is just like dumb mid-range zoo creatures that have summoning sickness. And Jace is very good against creatures that have summoning sickness and cannot attack the turn that they're played. It's definitely an awkward one. One of the first hands we've had with mostly red spells and no red mana, so I'm gonna mulligan that one. Yep. This is how this game's gonna end. I will mulligan this one as well. I'm gonna keep this one. I'm going to keep I think we're gonna put back Snap and Jace. Yeah, this is like the worst card we could possibly see here. It's gonna be really unfortunate if we lose this game. We're just gonna lose it to Mana Screw, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. We're not technically out of the woods just yet. We can draw a land and Archmage's Charm their Ragavan. Jesus. That's absurd. I was just thinking in my head, I was like, the worst thing they could possibly hit here is Teferi. And of course. They hit exactly the nuts. And I'm not gonna hit my land here, am I? Okay. We hit our land. Question is now, what do we do? I think I just have to keep up. So I'm just gonna draw 2 in my main phase because there is a Teferi in play. Okay, Snap doesn't do much. Not too worried about them playing a Snapcaster Mage. Okay, choosing to bolt me, Snap bolt me probably. Card doesn't do anything here. I think I'm gonna pack this one in. We are falling way too far behind this Ragavan, and my opponent just had pretty much the absolute nut draw there off the top of our deck, which was kind of ridiculous. Obviously, we mulliganed to 5, so we are definitely behind in that game, but it's definitely possible I should be messing with the mana base a little bit, because I think in our opening hand we could probably keep that opening hand with Ragavan Bolt and some other spells if we just had one red source, and we don't in that hand, so we probably need to mess with the mana a little bit. It needs to, I think we probably need to play at least one more fetch land. We need to be playing one more, or no, I think I'm playing 4 Flooded Strand, 4 Scalding Tarns, so I probably need to be playing 2 Arid Mesas. And then just like not the basic planes and not the Mystic Gate. That card's probably just a little bit too cute. I think those are our 2 worst lands in the deck, and we had both of them in our opener there that game, so the mana base needs to be messed with a little bit. Yeah. I will keep this, but this hand's not great. Naming red. Feels like Ponza. On the, oh, they're on Obosh. On green-red Obosh. They play a Blood Moon here, we get to cast our Ragavans. One Ragavan. It is legendary. But I'll probably dash it into play. Blood Moon? Magus. It's a little bit awkward, but it's okay. Probably just still dash a Ragavan into play. Dash my monkey. Question is, are we trading? Opponent says no. No thanks. Found a bolt. I accept your terms and conditions. I would like to lightning bolt this Magus. It's definitely an interesting one. It's not one I would have expected my opponent to play in their main deck, but to each their own, I suppose. I'm just going to cast Ragavan off the treasure, and I'm going to hold up Archmage's Charm to draw 2. There's a little bit of a thought to play Jace and minus the Jace on the Obsidian Charmaw, but then they just get to replay it and destroy another one of our lands, and I don't think we want to go through that. Even though the Jace would be able to untap if they did take that line, there's obviously a world where they just get to go like Bloodbraid Elf into some other threat and then follow it up with an Obsidian Charm on the next turn, and then we're just miles behind. We just can't beat that, so I'm going to lean on this line where we are. Am I drawing 2 or am I just countering this? I'm going to counter this. And yeah, I was going to say, I would imagine they're probably just not going to attack with this. I will not be attacking with my Ragavan back. On 5 mana. What you got for 5? Village my red source. Okay. Still think we're at a stalemate here, so as long as they're not casting something that kills my Ragavan. I will go ahead and counter this because this is technically a 2-for-1. We get the Stomp and the Giant. Obviously, we're still at a stalemate here. We'll go ahead and grab Batterskull. Feels like 3 mana pickup Obosh, but their deck is full of 3s, so it could still definitely be something else. But nope, it was 3 mana pickup Obosh. And I'm just going to pass here with the intent of countering the Obosh if they play it, or putting in the Cauldron or Batterskull at the end of turn if they don't do anything. Yep, counter that one. If I jam the Jace, I think I'm just supposed to jam Cauldron here, actually. And I don't think they really have any way to beat Cauldron. fine by me. Yep. Attack for 4. Got it, bud. Go ahead and grab a Ketria Triome. I'm sorry, a Ragavan Triome. The Jeskai one, obviously. Yeah, we're just gonna get in for 5, and now we have Snap Counterspell up, so there's basically not anything they can do about this. We also have Stoneforge Mystic put in the Batterskull. The defensive line. Yeah, I think I will just Snap Counterspell this. Okay, in for 4. Go to 11. I'll go ahead and shock this into play. Just so we can play the Ragavan post combat. I'm just gonna play Jace and then bounce the Bone Crusher. Get in for 5. Obviously they can then cast the Stomp, but even if they have the Stomp Bolt, they're not killing the Cauldra because Cauldra has Indestructible. So they're a red-green deck, which means Fire Ice or Feast and Famine are going to give protection from the relevant creature colors. On top of that, Lightning Bolt is pretty good against Magus of the Moon. Blood Moon is obviously in this deck as well. We could bring in like Wear Tear, the one Wear Tear as an option for that. The main reason I wanted Plains in this deck, I know I said earlier that this is like one of our worst lands in the deck, but the main reason I wanted Plains in this deck is specifically because of this Ponza deck. It seems to be somewhat popular on Magic Online right now. I think that Pillage is kind of in a sweet spot right now where there's a lot of artifacts running around. The artifact affinity decks are running around. Pillage is just kind of good against random artifacts, you know. But in any case, I think it's mostly because Blood Moon's quite good. There's a lot of Urza Saga's decks running around, and Blood Moon is very good against Urza Saga. So I think that's like more so the reason. Pillage is probably, you know, just a wayside reason. But yeah. So they're mostly a creature deck, so Force of Negation is kind of whatever. Obviously this grabbing Stomp is kind of neat, but not something I'm super crazy about. Yeah, I'm just gonna run it like this. Just board out like one of the forces for a Wear Tear. I do think this matchup is probably mostly in our favor. We can definitely get cheesed out by a Blood Moon, but turn off auto yields. Did not mean to hit the concede button. if it's an elf, there's not really anything we can do about it except we could prismatic ending it. Ignoble Hierarch, okay. Just going to lead on Scalding Tarn. Sigil. Okay. Definitely annoying, but got 4 bolts to draw to. Okay. Care much about this. Ragavan's kind of interesting. Obviously, if we get to connect with it, then it's going to make a treasure, which can then unlock part of our hand. But I'm probably just going to trade it for one of these Maguses if given the opportunity. I will force of negation this. I'm just basically forcing anything I get a target for. I don't know why there was some consideration there. Just like bolt him, kill it. Okay, I will concede to your 5 power. Turn 2 Bloodman, still very good for modern. We'll take out the Spell Pierce, we'll put in the 1 Prismari command. Something like this. I'm gonna try the subtleties over the Jaces. And we'll take out 1 force of negation as well. I feel like they're more of a build that is heavy on... they are heavy on Magus of the Moon. Because in games 1 and 2, we've seen at least 2 copies per game. And Subtlety is pretty good against Magus specifically. Or well, I say pretty good, it's at least a card that interacts against Magus. Ignoble Hierarch. I think I will just grab a basic planes here. I'm just going to cast Stoneforge Mystic. I think I'll grab Adder Skull here. And with this one, I'll go ahead and grab Cauldron. Three green mana for a tireless tracker. No thanks. Not this turn, at least. They chose to put tireless tracker on bottom. Another ignoble hierarch. Gonna go grab a basic island here. I'm gonna play out Stoneforge Mystic, go grab Sword of Feast and Famine. And then I will go ahead and put in the Cauldron Complete. I just want to take as many turns away from my opponent as I can. Do not want to give them any time to do anything. Next turn, we can go activate Stoneforge, equip the Sword of Feast and Famine to the Germ, the Cauldron, and then get in for 7, proc the Sword of Feast and Famine, and then we can untap everything, and then put the Batterskull in play, holding up Prismari Command. Molten Rain your planes. Okay. Magus. Okay. In for 5. Still don't really think that they're beating this, but part of the reason why I boarded in the Prismari command in the first place was mainly because of this interaction where I have one basic island and the rest of my mana is all red sources. I will go ahead and cast this here. We're going to go 2 damage and I'll make a treasure. 2 damage here, we'll make a treasure. And then like worst case scenario, he has the Veil of Summer and he gets to save his Magus of the Moon, but we still get him to make a treasure, which makes any mana of any color. So we are going to get to put in the Batter Skull at some point here. We have another elf. Okay, we have another elf. Still don't really see how they're beating this germ. It's just, it's indestructible. So like, maybe I'm supposed to dash this. Because it's lethal if I do. I don't really see any reason not to. I mean, obviously we don't get to. What if I just attack with everything? So they go block here, they take 3, block here, 4, 5. Put this here, block here, take 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, this is how I'm going to attack. Basically put them to the test. They basically have to put their Magus in front of the Germ. So they can trade the Magus for the Ragavan, and they put their Ignoble Hierarch in front of the Germ. They go to 1 this way. I guess I can put it in front of the Stoneforge Mystic. It doesn't really change much that way. Go to 1. Yeah, man. I didn't really think about that matchup in general. There's basically no way that they have to interact with a Kaldra once it's in play. So like, I think the game plan should just be play Kaldra. Put my Kaldra into play. Attack you 4 times with it. Good luck. Good luck, sir. I really think Spire Bluff Canal is a really good land in this deck, so I'm glad that I maxed out on that one. Okay, turn 1, enchant for white. Gonna go ahead and cast Ragavan on 1. Have Counterspell up on 2, hopefully. Hopefully they don't interact with my Ragavan. And they just play something. Okay, Fertile Grounds. They're developing their mana some more. Sterling Grove. Okay. Ragavan's gonna get to get in. This card's so powerful. Okay, yeah, I'm in for fertile ground, yeah. So we get to go play out Hallowed Fountain. We're gonna go green off Fertile Ground on Hallowed Fountain, and then this can now tap for blue. And basically all you want to do in this matchup is just counter every single spell that they have that draws extra cards. So Enchantress's Presence, there's a couple creatures that draw extra cards whenever you play enchantment spells. You can pretty much ignore the Sterling Groves. This is obviously like a tutor card. that lets them find specific things that they're looking for, but for the most part, you can ignore that. Just want to counter all of the Enchantress's presence effects. I will not be casting that one. And I'll just play out a Flooded Strand and pass. Definitely feels like they're probably going to crack a Sterling Grove here. But again, like, it's just not really an effect that I care too much about. I suppose they could also just Hall of Generosity, put the Enchantress's presence on top. Okay, so they are cracking Sterling Grove. And I'm not really sure what they're grabbing here, because it feels like the best card that they would be grabbing is just Enchantress's presence. I mean, like, doing it this way, they have the mana to play it this turn. I suppose that's probably why they're going with this line. I think blue, blue, blue. Counter target spell. Cycle cast out. And the games where you get to just stick a Ragavan and keep untapping with it and keep drawing extra cards with it and making mana is where this card really starts to shine. Selling a Hall of Heliod's Generosity. I suppose, well, no, yeah. So if they were doing it in their upkeep, so they were going to put the Enchantress's presence on top and draw it that turn, so. Yeah, this is fine. Probably going to go snap Counterspell here for the Enchantress's presence. Counter that one. Okay. Okay, they're effectively at 9. I think I'm actually okay with this, but I am going to draw 2 in response here. Like it buys them a little bit of time. This is basically just an enchantment. This is gain 10 life. And like, yeah, it does delay the game slightly, but doesn't really matter a ton. I am going to go grab Sword of Feast and Famine, I think. Just take the last card out of their hand. And also untap all our lands. I'm gonna go ahead and suit this up onto the Snapcaster Mage, I believe. Got a land from them. Eat their Sigil of the Empty Throne. We are vulnerable here. They could definitely start going off if they have all the necessary cards. So they're grabbing, is this Sterling Grove? Okay. This card's a -1, like it's not on as far as card advantage goes, because this puts the card on top. So I'm going to bolt them here. And then they take 4, 5, 6, 7. So they're going to 7 infect effectively here. The game would probably be over if I grabbed Cauldra, in all fairness, but I just wanted to get the last card out of their hand. So, Solemnity. Oh, is this GG's? Oh, this is awkward. Yeah, huh. So we do have a couple Jaces in our deck. Oh no, okay, that's lethal. Nice luck, my opponent says. Oh wait. We'll bring in the Wear Tear, we'll bring in the Teferis, bring in the Prismatic Ending, and part of the reason why I have an Narset on the board is specifically for this matchup, because one of the only ways that they can really walk away with the game is by playing Enchantress Presence effects and then start drawing through their deck very, very quickly. And obviously Narset being a way to stop that extra draw every turn is really, really nice. So this is not going to be a defensive matchup, so I think I'm going to take out the Batter Skull and I'm going to bring in the Sword of Fire and Ice. I don't think they're playing any Lightning Bolt targets, so I'm just going to board out the bolts. We'll bring in these guys, and then we'll probably board out probably just one Ragavan. They're not going to answer the first one, so if we draw 2, it's kind of awkward, as you saw in that last game, where we just had 2 of the same legendary threat. Yeah, hand's great. I say great. What would be great is if we had a Ragavan. Oh, nasty monk. Gonna go ahead and play out the Flooded Strand, go grab a Ralgren Triumph, then play Glacial Fortress, play our Stoneforge Mystic, and then we can start holding up counter spells. Yep. So I do want to jam the Stoneforge Mystic in on 2 here because, specifically because this is going to be a matchup that's more about just trying to kill our opponent rather than trying to counter what they have going on now, because the presence is already in play, right? Okay, they have a Sithis. Okay, Utopia Sprawl. Okay, so I think I'm going to put in the Cauldra, play my tapped Hallowed Fountain. Get in for 5. And yes, every enchantment spell they play on this next turn is going to gain them 1 life and draw them 2 cards. So this is definitely going to be a big turn for them. I think I'm okay with Solemnity. Card doesn't do much by itself. Okay. Utopia Sprawl. Okay. And then Sterling Grove. Again, don't really care much about this here. And the only card that I really want to counter is going to be the Solitary Confinement or the so Solitary Confinement or the Phyrexian Unlife. Okay, I will play out second Stoneforge Mystic because I want to go grab Sword of Feast and Famine. Okay, Sigil's definitely one that I probably can't beat, so I will be counterspelling this one. Ghostly Prison is annoying, but I think I can play through this one pretty okay. Maybe not, actually. Because this next turn I do want to... I mean, it's a little bit awkward because it doesn't do anything once we suit up the Sword of Feast and Famine. So like if we go activate Stoneforge Mystic, put the sword on the Phyrexian Germ, then it doesn't do much, but... I think I'm okay with this. We'll go 1 more turn without we'll go 1 more turn without the Sword of Feast and Famine. Sorry to not finish my thought there. But yeah, I don't think we need to put the Sword of Feast and Famine into play this turn, but it would be nice to get online here in a few turns. Again, if they start just churning through their deck, there's not really any cards that I care about, with the sole exception of, for example, Sigil of the Antithrone and the 3 mana card that's name is escaping me. Yep, don't really care too much about Nyx Fleece Ram. Okay, 5 mana. Probably for Sigil. Fertile Ground. Okay, don't don't care about that one. Solitary confinement is one that we will be countering. And I will hard cast a Force of Negation on this one. I would like to draw an untap land here, so then we can activate Stoneforge Mystic, put the sword into play, suit it up, and still pay for the Ghostly Prison. It's not the end of the world if we don't draw the untap land, but now we just have a decision to make, and I think the answer is no attack this turn. I would like to hold up all of my counter magic. Okay, there's the Sigil of the Empty Throne, which I'll go ahead and Force of Negation. Solitary Confinement, we'll go ahead and counterspell. Phyrexian Unlife. We still have Jaces in our deck, so we can still technically play out of this, but it definitely looks like our opponent has successfully gotten the chokehold going. So I'll be honest, I don't actually know how these decks win. I guess they have to have more copies of the Angel making one. But I'll go ahead and concede this one just so we can get to a game 3. I do think that we have a pretty good chance of winning the game on the play. Do I want some number of lightning bolts for the Sithis? Doesn't seem unreasonable. The resolved spells that matter are like not a huge concern. Maybe we just board out like 3 prismatic endings for 3 bolts, something like this. Really would like to find Narset in this matchup. Again, like I said, Narset's kind of just a major hoser for what they're doing. Card's pretty good. I will be keeping this one. Start on Hollowed Fountain tapped. Say go. It's a pretty good draw. We'll grab Cauldra, I believe. Yeah, we'll grab Cauldra. I am just going to jam the Narset into play. They basically have to deal with this before they can do anything else this game. So we're going to take the Archmage's Charm, I think. Attack for 1. We're on 3 mana. Going to untap and go to 4. They have a land drop. They definitely have, you know, they definitely have stuff like Banishing Light in their deck. So it's not just lights out from here. Rest in Peace basically does nothing against our deck. It means our Snapcasters are not going to do much, but it's not a huge concern. Grab Cryptic, and I'm gonna go ahead and play this tap land and say go. If they play something we need to counter, such as a Banishing Light, I think we will. If they don't, we can just put our Cauldron into play. I think I will be countering this one, just because technically can attack the Narset. And I'll go ahead and pass here with Cryptic up. Put in the Cauldron. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit afraid about this matchup specifically. I do think that the enchantment deck is very powerful, and it's hard for these control decks to sometimes keep up if they resolve even one of their Enchantress Presence effects, their Enchantress effects. They just have so much mana ramp. They can play an Enchantress's Presence on turn 2 pretty easily. And it's tough for this style of a deck to interact with that on the draw. On the play, it's a little bit easier. Obviously with Counterspell playing a big part in that. I do not care about this Phyrexian Unlife, even in the slightest. I'm gonna put this Sword of Fire and Ice in play. Grab a Ragavan Triumph. Equip the sword to the germ. Get in for 7. Shock the Sithis. Just to get it out of the way, mostly. I think I am going to go ahead and play Teferi and just make them pick up their Phyrexian on life. Just because it lets us potentially make our land drop this turn, and also the only counterspell we had in our hand anyways was Force of Negation. It's not like we're short on cards to pitch to that, so I'm just going to put them dead. Okay. My opponent conceded. Monkblade looking pretty good. I'll be honest. I do need to mess with the mana base slightly, so if I'm being honest with you, I think what I'll probably end up doing for the mana base is I need to find some way to make this deck slightly better against exactly the Ponza deck. Because Ponza's like kind of awkward. You know, like obviously maybe the answer is just more Prismari commands? I'm not too sure. Like, I mean, Ragavan's really good, obviously. You know, if you get to play a Ragavan on 1 or even 2 and just kind of clear the way, they obviously give you a bunch of red mana, so you're always going to have the mana to cast Ragavan or dash it and get it into play and start making treasures with it. And the treasures obviously help you mitigate the mana screw issue. Okay, turn 1 Ether Vial. Looks like Merfolk, maybe? Batterskull and Cauldron Complete could be good in this type of a matchup. A little bit awkward that we've drawn 2 of them in our opening hand, but we do have 1 Stoneforge Mystic to hopefully start cheating them into play. Okay, Silvergill Adept. This is probably not a good matchup for us if I had to guess. I suppose I could have grabbed a basic Plains instead of the Ragavan Triumph to keep them off of Island Walk abilities. Sword of Feast and Famine. Probably gonna put it in the community speaker that they showed me. Yeah, I almost assuredly should have grabbed the basic Plains instead of the Ragavan Triumph. Now the community speaker is obviously a 2/2. Now these guys have Island Walk. Okay, Tide Shaper. I mean, I suppose this is gonna make our land an island anyways. Yeah, this is really awkward. Ragavan Triumph is gonna be an island now. With no other types. Take 6. The Force of Negation was just a turn too late, and basically everything else was just kind of awkward this game. So super powerful draw from my opponent, and we're going to cede to that. Subtlety seems pretty good in this matchup. Prismatic Ending seems pretty good. Sword of Fire and Ice seems great. I don't think this is going to be an offensive matchup, so I don't think Cauldron is particularly very good. Prismari Command seems pretty good. It's sort of a 2-for-1 in the sense that you're going to get to shock something and then clean up the vial with it, which is pretty nice. Spell Pierce and Force of Negation are mostly mediocre in this style of a matchup. And then there's one more cut that I need to make. Probably just a Jace Jace is kind of awkward in this matchup. This hand's not great, but Prismari Command could be very, very good. Like on a you know, a game plan where my opponent goes like turn 1 Bile, turn 2 you know, Bile in my 1-drop, play a 2-drop kind of thing. I think Prismari Command is going to be good in a game like that. Just going to play out the Steam Vents tapped. We're only going to get to use this vial once before we Prismari Command it. Yeah. Play this out, and we're going to go 2 damage, destroy an artifact. There's no 1 mana, like, lowered effect that pumps the Mistbinder here, so... Ooh. That's disgusting. Not imagining them bringing in Force of Negation. Jeez. Okay. I guess we're brainstorming with Jace. I don't even know what we're looking for, really. I guess that's a good start. Prismatic Ending takes the Sveloon off the board. Man, this is rough. I mean, I have to imagine this matchup is terrible for us in general. So, like, there is that to be said. Did I board in Subtleties? I did board in Subtleties. I'm gonna go white, blue, red, Prismatic Ending, the Sveloon. They cast anything in response, we're gonna counterspell that. Counterspell your counterspell. Oh wait, you got it. You got it, bud. I know we're not just dead, but we're basically just dead. To my opponent having the absolute nut draw there in that last game. Well, we got steamrolled by Merfolk. We lost to, what did we lose to in round 2? Was it Ponza? Did we lose to Ponza? And we lost to the Zoo deck. We lost to the Zoo deck with the crazy crazy hand in game 3 where they played a Ragavan on 1 and we didn't have an answer for it. So, a couple minor changes. I'm just gonna mess with the mana base here slightly. After running through those games, I do think that our mana base is just slightly too awkward as it currently sits. So I think we want to play, and I think it's okay if you play a somewhat more aggressive mana base because you can obviously get all your colors with Ralgren Triome, which is pretty great, but then also your Batterskull, you just have a lifelink threat in your main deck. So pretty a-okay with that there. So I think I would want one more steam vents. Over the Mystic Gate at the very least. I think that was probably our worst land. The awkward part about it is like you really want the 4 Spire Bluff Canal as a way to play Ragavan on 1. But then you also need triple blue for Archmage's Charm, double blue for Counterspell on 2. So your mana base is, you are pulling yourself in different directions here slightly. So I think you probably want some more fetch lands here. And I think the answer is to play more blue fetches. They just grab Island. Obviously, if you play Arid Mesa, you can grab Hallowed Fountain, Steam Vents, or Plains. But something like Misty Rainforest or Polluted Delta just grabs the other lands. We'll probably just play one more island. Yeah. And interestingly enough, I think I like Prismatic Ending, but I don't think I want the 4th copy. I think I want something really cheap. You know, like obviously Prismatic Ending pairs well against like other cheap creatures, but I want something cheap that can be used to interact with something that's slightly larger, like a Lightning Helix or a Path to Exile. Path to Exile obviously is better against specifically bigger creatures, so like Scion of Draco, the Territorial Kabu, things like that. Territorial Kabu is a bad example because it's just 2 mana, so you can just exile it pretty easily with 2 mana Prismatic Ending. But I think just having more ways to get things out of the way for your Ragavan seems appealing to me. So I think I want a path in the main board. And then probably a path in the sideboard. So yeah. Something like this. Yeah. I actually don't think that Wear Tear is like that crazy good. So I think it's actually just more correct to be playing a second Narset. Because that card was absurd in that Enchantress matchup. It just like basically won the game by itself. Like all I had to do was protect it, and there was almost no way they were going to win that game. So I think Narset's pretty good there. So what else do I want to try out? Should I be playing a Prairie Stream in this deck? Maybe? Probably not. Like I said, it's kind of free to just be playing more aggressive mana base because we do have the Batter Skull as a way to gain life in our deck. It would be more free if we were playing Lightning Helixes in our main board, but we're not. This deck's sweet.